Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? You've been exploring some really interesting stuff with OpenAI's latest and greatest.
Yeah, your sources this time around are a really cool mix. We've got, let's see, Tequila's in the mix. Always love hearing from him.
Of course, the OG.
Right. And we've got those YouTube videos you've been watching, Wes Roth, Mindful Machines, even some chatter from Reddit. So
Yeah, gotta love Reddit.
gotta love Reddit, right? So shall we dive in? What's the plan for today's deep dive?
Well, today's deep dive is all about OpenAI's new model. It's got this fun nickname, Strawberry, or sometimes people are calling it Zero One. And, well, it's making some waves.
It is big time. One of the biggest things is this whole puzzle thing, right? Apparently it's solving this puzzle that no other AI model has been able to crack. And from what I've seen, this isn't just any puzzle. Wes Roth, in his YouTube video, is calling this a major milestone.
Totally, and it all comes down to this thing called test time compute. Basically, it's about how the AI actually solves the problem.
So instead of just spitting out an answer, Strawberry's taking its sweet time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's trying out different solutions,
Yeah.
like on a whiteboard.
Hmm?
You know, it takes longer, but gets to a much deeper level of analysis.
And Wes actually shows how Strawberry's saying things like, and interesting as it's going through the challenge. Kind of creepy if you ask me.
I know, right? It's like it's actually thinking.
So this is it, right? Is this the AGI everyone's been talking about?
Well, hold your horses. Tequila, in that interview you sent, he's a bit more cautious. He says, yeah, this deep reasoning stuff is really cool, and it's definitely improving. But he's seen it all before. He's seen AI demos that promise the moon and then...
is allowed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he even pointed out that on some tasks, older models can actually outperform Strawberry. And they're definitely faster.
So it's not a magic bullet?
Not quite. It's more like another step, a very intriguing step, I'll give it that, in the right direction.
And speaking of intriguing, you mentioned OpenAI is doing something kind of, I don't know, secretive with this whole chain of thought thing.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting, right? Because with previous models, you could see their work, like their thought process, step by step.
Right, like they were showing their work.
Exactly. But with Strawberry, it's all hidden. You get the answer, but not the how or the why.
So it's like, trust us, we know what we're doing.
And that's where the debate begins, right? Like, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Wes Roth, he's surprisingly okay with it.
Really? Why? I mean, it seems a bit shady, no?
Well, he argues that this hidden layer actually allows the AI to tackle way more complex problems. Kind of like our own brains, right?
So it's like our subconscious doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need to see every single calculation to trust the outcome, right?
I guess that makes sense, but then there's mindful machines, and they're not so thrilled.
No, they're definitely on the other side of the fence on this one. They're worried about transparency or lack thereof.
Right, how can we be sure it's not biased or even manipulated?
Exactly. It's like, is the AI actually being intelligent or just really good at putting on a show?
It's giving me that Magic Act vibe, you know? Like, wow, impressive, but how'd they do that?
And that takes us back to Tequila's point about systems over models. There's always more going on behind the scenes than what we see on the surface.
True that. It's like that old saying, if it looks like a duck.
It might just be a really convincing AI.
Touché. But before we disappear down the rabbit hole of AI philosophy,
Which is always tempting.
always tempting, I know. You've also been digging into how all this cutting-edge stuff is actually being used in the real world.
Right, right. Let's bring it down to earth a bit. So we've got to talk about Tequila's company, contextual AI. They're all about making AI actually useful for businesses, you know?
And from what I've gathered, they're not just building another one-size-fits-all AI.
No way. They're all about customization. They tailor their solutions to specific use cases, which makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
It does, especially in fields like finance, right? Like, you don't want a generalist AI handling your investments.
Exactly. Tequila actually gave this great example of working with a bank. They needed to analyze tons of financial documents and pull out really specific information.
So not just like summarizing the document.
No, this was about getting into the nitty-gritty details, the stuff a general AI might miss or misinterpret.
So you're saying that specializing AI, really tailoring it to a specific domain like finance, can unlock a lot more value.
Absolutely. It's about choosing the right tool for the job.
It's like having a seasoned financial analyst versus someone who just Googled investing.
That's a perfect analogy. And this is where Tequila's expertise really shines. He gets that building AI for the real world. It's not just about fancy algorithm.
Right, there's a whole other side to it.
Exactly. He even mentioned that even something as basic as maintaining a stable computing infrastructure.
The plumbing, so to speak.
Yes, the plumbing
Yeah.
can be a huge headache.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it, like all this cutting-edge AI, and sometimes even the basics can be a challenge.
It really puts things in perspective, doesn't it? It's like we're so busy racing towards the future of AI
Yeah.
that we sometimes forget about the nuts and bolts.
Totally. Which reminds me, you mentioned something about those Reddit threads you've been browsing, something about unexpected AI behavior.
Oh, yeah, there were a couple of really interesting ones. One was about Google's AI podcast tool, Notebook LM.
Right, I think I saw that one. People were going crazy for it, right?
Yeah, they were feeding it all sorts of content, like
Oh.
crazy stuff, and it was generating these surprisingly coherent podcasts, like really impressive.
But then there was a catch.
There was. Some users discovered this weird daily limit on how many podcasts they could create.
Wait, really? So they could only make like a couple of podcasts a day and that was it?
Yep, that was it.
Mm.
Like the AI had a quota to fill or something.
That's so bizarre. It's like, why even have a limit? It's not like they're running out of like digital ink or something.
Exactly. And that's what's got people scratching their heads, right? What's the deal with these built-in constraints? Are there other limitations we're not seeing, even with these supposedly creative AI tools?
It's like they're holding the AI back or something.
Right. Like, what if it gets too creative, too powerful?
Okay, that's a little creepy when you put it like that.
I know, right?
So what was the other Reddit thread about?
Oh, this one was about OpenAI's strawberry model. You know, the one we were just talking about.
Yeah, the puzzle-solving whiz kid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So someone decided to test its reasoning abilities with a classic riddle, the one that's designed to expose those unconscious biases about gender roles.
You mean the one about the surgeon?
That's the one, where the surgeon is the patient's father, but people often jump to the conclusion that the surgeon is the mother.
Yeah, I know that one. So how did Strawberry do?
Well, get this. Its initial response was the classic biased answer. It assumed the surgeon was the mother.
Are you serious? Even with all its fancy reasoning and test time compute, it still fell for that.
It did, and it gets even weirder. The user then challenged the model, pointing out that the surgeon could be the father. And instead of recognizing the obvious answer, Strawberry doubled down and suggested that maybe the boy had two fathers.
You're kidding. It's like it got so caught up in trying to be clever that it missed the simplest explanation.
Right, and it just goes to show even the most advanced AI can still trip up on basic logic and common sense.
Mm.
They excel at pattern recognition, like finding those hidden connections in mountains of data.
Right, but when it comes to real understanding.
And that's where things get tricky. It's like they're mimicking human thought, but they don't truly get it
Yeah.
in the same way we do.
Which brings us back to that fundamental question. Are these systems truly intelligent? Or are they just really, really good at playing the part?
It's a question that philosophers have been debating for centuries, right?
Mhm.
And now it's not just a thought experiment anymore. It's something we're facing head-on with AI.
And the answer is far from clear. But you know what else is fascinating about all this?
What's that?
Tequila's take on multi-agent systems. Have you heard about this?
Oh, yeah, he's really excited about this. Multi-agent systems, it's like taking AI to a whole new level.
So instead of just one AI trying to solve a problem, you've got a whole team of them.
Exactly. Think of it like instead of a solo game, it's a team sport for AI. They can cooperate, they can compete. It's fascinating.
So what happens when you unleash all these AIs on a problem? What do they get up to?
Well, that's the really cool part. When you have multiple AIs interacting, you get this emergent behavior.
Emergent behavior. Okay, now you're just using big words to sound smart.
No, seriously, it's really cool.
Yeah.
It basically means that the AI agents, they start doing things that go beyond their original programming. Think of a flock of birds, right? Each bird is following its own simple set of rules, like stay close to your neighbors, avoid obstacles, that kind of thing.
Right, I get it.
But together, they create these incredibly complex, beautiful patterns, right?
Mhm.
Murmurations, they're called. And it's not because any one bird is directing the whole show. It just emerges from their interactions.
So you're saying that with multi-agent AI, we could see these systems doing things like solving problems in ways that we never even programmed them to do.
Exactly. They could come up with solutions that we never even imagined, just through the power of collaboration and competition.
Okay, that's kind of cool, but also a little, out there. Like, what if they get too smart? What if they decide they don't need us anymore?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's exactly why Dakila is so fascinated by this. He believes that multi-agent systems could be the key to unlocking artificial general intelligence, or AGI.
AGI, that's like the holy grail of AI, right? A machine that can actually think and reason like a human being.
Exactly. But it's also a double-edged sword,
Yeah.
right? Because along with that potential comes a whole lot of ethical questions and concerns.
Yeah, like what happens if we create something that's smarter than we are? That could go either way, right?
It could. And that's a debate that's only going to get more heated as AI continues to advance. But hey, that's a conversation for another deep dive.
So we've got these incredibly powerful AI systems emerging, but the big question, the one everyone's asking, is are we on the verge of creating something that can truly think like us?
Yeah, AGI, it's the ultimate prize, right? But as we've seen, even getting close to that level of intelligence comes with a whole new set of challenges, and frankly, some people are a little freaked out about it.
Rightfully so, I might add. But Tequila, he had this really interesting take on AGI. He doesn't see it as some big enterprise solution, but more as a consumer product.
Interesting. Why is that?
Well, he was saying that in a business setting, you're usually solving for a specific problem, right? You need an AI that can analyze financial data or streamline customer service, something like that.
Right. Very targeted, specific.
Exactly. But consumers, we're all over the place. We want an AI that can help us with our taxes and then turn around and write a poem.
Oh, so we want it all. Makes sense.
And that's where AGI comes in, according to Tequila. It's that kind of all-purpose intelligence that can handle anything we throw at it.
Fascinating. So for businesses, it's still all about specialization.
It seems that way, yeah. Like that example Tequila gave about the bank. They didn't need a generalist AI that could write a symphony. They needed something that could handle their very specific customer service needs and do it really, really well.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Build trust by being consistently reliable,
Hmm.
especially when you're dealing with sensitive stuff like finance.
Absolutely. And Tequila also touched on this whole open source versus closed source debate.
Ah, yeah, that's a big one. Where does he stand on all that?
Well, he actually used this really interesting analogy. He said it's like a triangle. At the top, you've got those big, powerful closed source models, like the ones from OpenAI and Google.
Right, the heavy hitters, but they come with a price tag usually.
Exactly. And then at the bottom of the triangle, you've got those open source models, maybe not as powerful, but much more accessible and customizable.
So where's the sweet spot?
Tequila says it's all about finding that middle ground, a place where you can leverage the power of those closed source models, but still have the flexibility of open source.
So a hybrid approach.
Exactly. It's about using the right tool for the job.
Which brings us to another really interesting thing Tequila mentioned, synthetic data.
Synthetic data. Okay, you're going to have to explain that one to me.
So it's basically artificial data that's created to train AI models.
Wait, so instead of feeding the AI real world data, you're creating like a fake world for it to learn from.
Exactly. It's like the Matrix, but for AI.
Whoa, that's wild. But why go to all that trouble?
Well, as AI models get more complex, they need more and more data to learn.
Yeah.
And collecting real-world data, it's not easy. It's time-consuming, it's expensive, and it can be a privacy nightmare.
Yeah, that makes sense. But can AI really learn from something that's, well, fake?
That's the beauty of it. Synthetic data, it's not just random noise. It's designed to capture the essential characteristics of real data, but without any of the privacy concerns.
So you're basically creating a playground for AI to learn in.
Exactly. A safe space where it can explore, experiment, and make mistakes without any real-world consequences.
Wow, that's actually pretty brilliant when you think about it. So synthetic data, it's like this ethical alternative that allows us to push the boundaries of AI without, accidentally unleashing a robot apocalypse. Something like that. Look, the future of AI is still being written, but it's clear that we're on the cusp of something truly remarkable.
No doubt. And as we venture further into this uncharted territory, it's crucial that we keep asking the tough questions, exploring those ethical dilemmas, and making sure that we're building an AI-powered future that benefits everyone.
Couldn't agree more. It's a shared responsibility, not just for the engineers and the coders, but for society as a whole.
Well said. Well, that wraps up our deep dive for today. We've covered a ton of ground, from those mind-bending new models to the very real challenges of making AI work in the real world.
And who knows what the future holds? One thing's for sure, it's going to be an exciting ride.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and stay curious.